Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Medfield College Film Society. I'm Jeff Crawford. I'm joined by my society members. Mr. Robert McSwain, how's it going?
Bonjour, mon nom Robert, et je suis le fondateur.
Okay.
How you say, I'm very confused right now.
Moi aussi, monsieur.
Right. Well, and we will go to Michael Crawford next. How's it going, my brother?
Ho, 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 si c'est bon. Is good, yes. Very good here.
He's good, no?
He's good, no? Yavo, yavo.
And Mr. Andy Brown, how's it going?
I'm not even going to attempt anything. I mean, I could be like, hey, it'd just be awful.
Hey,
I was going to be shocked.
Yeah.
blue jeans, man.
Oh, let me try that. Oh. How's that?
Pretty good.
En français.
Did you
Sacre
like
bleu.
it?
Well, if you can tell from our mood, we are in the third installment of the Herbie franchise. We have done The Love Bug. We have done Herbie Rides Again, a whole new story. Michael, what are we watching this week?
This week, we are hitting the road on the continent with the 1977 Disney classic Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Produced by Ron Miller. Miller time in the house. Directed by Vincent McEveety, who was a frequent TV director, who also directed many Disney films in the 1970s, including Million Dollar Duck and Gus, notably. Written by Arthur Alsberg and Don Nelson. They also did a lot of television writing. For Disney, they wrote No Deposit, No Return, Hot Lead and Cold Feet, and Gus. For the record, they also wrote the TV movie The Hoboken Chicken Emergency.
Oh,
which is a connection I was unaware of.
Classic.
This fine film stars Dean Jones. He is back as Jim Douglas. This was his last starring role for Disney. It's a swan song. Also starring TV's Don Knotts as Wheelie Applegate, Julie Summers as Diane Darcy, Roy Kinnear as Quincy, a veteran British character actor, the great Bernard Fox as Max, a.k.a. Dr. Bombay and Malcolm Merriweather, and featuring Eric Braeden as Bruno von Stickel, Jacques Marin as Inspector Boucher, and Xavier Saint-Macari as Fontenoy. Also featuring music by Frank Duvall.
Yeah, Frank Duvall, known for writing the Brady Bunch theme.
Yeah, a weird person to pop up in Disney lore.
Yes, very interesting. And I missed the George Bruns treatment, Herbie treatment.
We have a reprise of some of his themes.
That's true.
At points, but not George Bruns, which is very strange.
Very different feel. And unlike a lot of the movies we've seen, this is a lot of this is shot on location.
Yes, very notably shot in Monaco and in Paris. A lot of actual footage from the country. So it has a very different feel from a lot of Disney films from the time, most Disney films from the time, and the other Herbie movies as well.
I mean, there were times that it felt like they were in California.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, they definitely were at times.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
The Alps.
Yeah, there were a lot of where it was a matte
Really
paintings.
dry year in the Alps.
Yeah, matte painting of the Alps over very clearly a California mountainside somewhere. So yeah, not completely filmed in France, but a lot of location shooting.
Well, before we get into it, we usually go to Andy. I do want to go to Andy, but I want to do a check-in here. How are we doing on the Herbie movies before we watch this? How are you all feeling?
Well, personally, I was revved up for this one because this was one that we watched a lot in our youths. But I found it interesting because the version that we had was taped off of TV from Wonderful World of Disney, where it aired in 2 1-hour segments, which had been cut for time. So I don't think I had ever seen the opening credits for this movie because it cut right into it in the
I can't say I remember that either.
tape we had.
Yeah, it might be. I think we had the exact same thing. We had it recorded on VHS from TV, so I'm assuming it was from the Wonderful World of Disney. And I didn't have like a lot of vivid memories of this movie, like plot wise, but I remember watching it a lot. And for some reason, Don Knotts stood out mostly for his spanner collection that he had on his coveralls.
Naturally,
for some reason, that was that was burned into my memory.
It was nice and flashy. But yeah, this was like the director's cut for me because there were scenes that had been cut from our version that I had never seen before, just little dialogue scenes. And so it was kind of exciting.
All right, Andy, what were you thinking going into this?
I was, based off the name, I was excited because I was like, okay, here's some car racing in Monte Carlo. And honestly, that's the worst title they could have given this film because you don't get to Monte Carlo, spoiler, until the end of the movie. And so I was kind of really disappointed in that. I think that's the word that's going to summarize my review of this. Is I was just disappointed because I saw that Jim Douglas, okay, all right, he's back. I was not expecting him because after what you guys said, that after the second movie, what was it called?
Herbie Rides Again.
Herbie Rides Again. I was not expecting to see him again at all, and so when he showed back up, I was like, oh, this could be interesting. And I was kind of I knew you guys had said a few things about how like we wouldn't see some of these other characters again, but I was not expecting how much of a departure it was from the previous from the first movie, The Love Bug. So yeah, it was a disappointing movie to me.
I will say it felt, having watched it in series with the other movies, I was surprised at how different it felt from the other movies.
And they really like to turn the wheel on this franchise.
No pun intended, of course.
Yeah, jerk it. Because obviously, where we're going after this is
that's another direction entirely.
Yeah. So, well, I think it's that time. I think we better get up to the starting line and start this race. Michael, let's get to Monte Carlo.
Well, we kick things off with Herbie getting his passport stamped. And like I said, it's weird to see this movie with the opening credits, but we get a montage of Herbie driving through the French countryside and eventually into Paris. We find Jim Douglas and Wheelie Applegate inside. Herbie, they're driving around, but they're lost. Wheelie's messing with his French map, and they don't know where they're going. So Herbie takes it upon himself to pull over to get directions from a cop. And it's here we find out that Jim and Wheelie are there to enter the Trans-France race. And when Wheelie proclaims that Herbie's going to be the winner, the cop laughs at him. So we get the mandatory oil leak gag. Yeah, this is a trademark gendarme.
But I was disappointed they didn't have the Foley that goes along with it.
There was no
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, already though, my first note is what happened to Willoughby Whitfield. And maybe it's me coming in having higher expectations because more modern movies would have the storyline kind of carry through, and maybe it just wasn't what was done at the time. So I'm expecting Willoughby to show up, or there'll be some sort of explanation about why is now Jim Douglas why is he back with Herbie?
Right. And where's Carol?
Where's Carol? Why? I mean, last time we heard he was off racing cars in Europe, and I was like, oh, maybe there's going to be a tie-in there, and there was nothing like that. So I was disappointed and confused.
I would like to say, too, that they really play around with the timeline here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure we can talk about that. But
Yeah.
it's completely bizarre and arbitrary.
Why does a car have a passport? Like, that was my very first question. Is, as the United States recognized Herbie as a living being that requires a social security number, and he pay his own taxes now. I mean,
He's got a VIN
why does he have a
number.
passport?
Yeah. Well, Andy, I want to know what were your opinion about the reveal that Don Knotts was in this movie.
At first, I was excited, and then it quickly waned because it made so much sense when you were talking about the writers of this movie and how they were involved with Gus. And I was like, just how the exact same way I felt about Don Knotts and Gus was he was wasted. I don't think Don Knotts lived up to his potential in this movie. I think there was a couple of, he gave a few Don Knotts looks and, a couple of some of his mannerisms, but I think he could have been so much better. So it was really disappointing.
There's some, I don't know, there's still some high level Nazisms going on here.
I could count on like two fingers.
He still gets it in there though, at least twice.
One of the reasons I think I gravitated towards this one as a kid, not only because it was one that we had on tape, but it had Dean Jones, but it also had Don Knotts. So that was always exciting for me. But I think you're right. He's well better used than Gus, certainly. But still, maybe not to his full potential. It's a little sort of Mr. Furley adjacent, this character, than Barney adjacent. So
yeah, and I think they could have. They didn't need Don Knotts for this movie. I mean, they could have gone with some other actor to have done the exact same thing, and I think it would have been fine. But there are times, though. I mean, what I also want to know is what's that connection? How did Wheelie and Jim get together? I mean,
yeah, because there's an implied history. There's an implied history between them. So it's like, well, who is he? Where did he come from? Where did they meet up?
I think that would have made it a lot more interesting to use Don Knotts, who's clearly a little bit older. I mean, there could have been an interesting story of Wheelie Applegate. Plus, one of the best character names.
Oh yeah,
you got. Wheelie Applegate is really top-notch name. So, missed opportunities left and right.
It does drive me crazy, though, how they spelled his name. It's with a Y.
Yeah. Which he has helpfully painted on his helmet later.
Yeah.
Which I like. So they get pointed their way to the race. And as they're heading there, we pass a strongbox being unloaded from an armored car. And a weirdly high-strung guy who feels to me like one of the villains from Raiders of the Lost Ark is proclaiming the arrival.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
He's proclaiming the arrival of the most magnificent diamond in the world, the Étoile de Joie. And he announces to the crowd that the exhibit featuring the diamond will be opening that afternoon. So,
is that a normal strategy? You just load it in the front door with a crowd of people. You have something really valuable.
Yeah, I love how they have like somebody in the crowd is like, is that the payroll for the museum? Is it really that important? I'm like, why? Why did he drop that in? It's like, no, it is a diamond.
And why are you there, that guy? Like, why are you attending this event?
Let's all go down to the museum and watch them unload the diamond.
Yeah, that we don't even know is a diamond. And, that they're setting up the exhibit. It's opening that afternoon. So apparently very little setup required. So
something that also kind of reached out to me was that it felt very much like the Blake Edwards Pink Panther films, especially like the Return of the Pink Panther, with Christopher Plummer, rest in peace.
Yes.
So yeah, that whole theme kind of ran in parallel with this movie. I mean, especially with the inspectors and all that kind of stuff further on down the film. But yeah, I definitely got a strong Pink Panther vibe.
I mentioned this later as things unfold, but I mean, there's clearly an attempt here because that was a very successful film franchise at this time. Very clearly an attempt to elbow in on some of that action, some of that Pink Panther action in this movie, in several ways that we'll see. So we've got our B plot, and there's a lot of cutting back and forth between the racing and the diamonding at the start, as we shall see. So, Étoile de Joie, opening at the museum. So we cut back to the race. Herbie's arriving while a TV reporter gives us some sweet, sweet exposition. He introduces a sort of secondary villain, the racer Bruno von Stickel.
Yes.
Yes.
Doesn't get much better than this.
One of my
That's
fave
pretty
characters.
amazing right there. It's a great name.
It's
Yeah.
great. Great look, great car.
Love his car. Love it.
Well, that's supposed to be a Porsche 917, but they call it the Laser 917 GT,
Oh, that's
which I'm
weird.
guessing it was a knockoff. It was I went and looked it up. It was a replica, but they made a fiberglass fake Porsche. 'Cause they only made like 25 total of those cars, and I guess they didn't want to bang one up for the movie.
Yeah, because he gets into it with Herbie a little. Yeah, Von Stickel, great character, great little recurring theme song or theme.
Oh, yeah.
like
A motif.
a music
Yeah.
sting much later in the movie. Iconic in my youth. So we see all the fancy European sports cars that the drivers will be using, and then Herbie shows up to a wave of laughter from the crowd. Apparently, they haven't heard of Herbie's record.
They shot this at the Eiffel Tower, didn't they?
Yeah.
Was that backdrop. Yeah, that blew my mind when I saw that.
Yeah, that's
was
the
thinking
flavor
amazing.
of this movie is very different because they're shooting a lot of this stuff on location, and it's like,
Yeah, the backdrops are gone, and they're just going for it.
Yeah.
This one.
all these cars and all these people on location. It's a bigger production. The reporter goes to talk to Jim and Wheelie, and so we get the exposition. We find out that they haven't been in a race in 12 years,
Why? Why did they do this?
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah,
which
so
is weird
19
because like even the original Love Bug was what 8 years
10
old
years.
when this movie came
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
When it came
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
it was 69, right? So this would have been 8 years
Yeah,
later.
then that'd been 8 years. Yeah.
And just like 4 years after Herbie Rides Again. So,
Okay, so let me ask a question. So, 1965 is when he last won a race on that timeline. So Herbie wandering into a showroom is a plot hole radar gaff. Herbie wandering out of a showroom is another plot hole radar gaff. How is that on a plot hole radar there, Andy?
It's off the charts, man.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with you on that. I agree
Yes.
with you.
I mean, at this point, I just like threw my notepad across the room and I was like, "What?"
It's just like, why would they do that? Like, why?
Yeah, it just makes any. It's like it's not like they had to. Yeah, there's no reason. It doesn't make any sense.
they ignore
And it-
like everything and imply that Wheelie was Jim's partner before, which of course we've never seen Wheelie before. So
Well, the other thing, it's like the most prestigious race ever. It's like, well, if he hadn't raced in 12 years, like, and everybody's laughing at him and they don't seem to really know the car, like, how did he get in to
yeah,
the race?
you just show up in your Volkswagen.
He just drive up. I used to race.
Anyway, yeah, we have no idea what's been going on in that 12 years. No idea what Jim's been doing. Apparently, unmentioned Carol didn't make it out the other end of whatever it was.
He's still dressing nice. It's not quite as nice, but he's still dressing nice.
Still
He's-
got the turtleneck going.
yeah, he's got.
Yeah, I was going to say Jim's still rocking the attire. So and doing the driving routine as well. The
Yes,
Jim driving.
always.
Yeah, not as much. No gum in this movie. No chewing gum. I noticed. But
Maybe this is like an alternate universe, and we don't realize it. Like there was like some sort of like a rip. In this
Yeah, it could be a
space-time
a
continuum.
a JJ Star Trek thing.
yeah, multiverse of madness. So anyway, the point is this is going to be their big comeback, the France race. So we get some kind of quality Don Knotts posturing before Von Stickel gets in some slams about Herbie being so small he would fit in the washing machine with their socks.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, real good taunts throughout.
Highlight of my movie.
Herbie is a real jewel, Wheelie proclaims, before we cut back to the museum.
Boom.
Boom. Where the Étoile de Joie is being readied for display. So here, the high-strung possible Nazi guy is talking to the security guard, who is the guy from Welcome to Pooh Corner.
Come to Pooh Corner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pooh Corner guy. High-strung guy is showing off the security system, which is run by computer. It's the finest security system ever devised, he says. It will protect the diamond better than any guard. So why even try putting a guard on it? Don't even bother. Just have the system. Security guy, who apparently has impulsivity problems, reaches for the diamond to show how easy it would be just to grab it. But it sets off an alarm and a giant cartoon-grade cage drops from the ceiling. It's a real Looney Tunes style cage coming down.
Very lightweight cage.
Yeah, very. The Diamond Man turns off the alarm and explains that the pillow on the display is heat sensitive to any hand which might stray too close. He covers the diamond with a glass vitrine and arms electric eye beams which surround the pedestal. He has the guards leave the room and then activates sensors in the floor which would detect the mere ashes of a cigarette. So they leave.
And they turn on the security cameras. Oh, wait, never mind.
Yeah, no security cameras. We got electric eye. We got a heat pillow. So wacky music starts to play, and one of the statues in the room slides open, which invites so many questions. We find two shady characters inside. It's Quincy and Max.
Well, it's like such a slow reveal of like the opening and the music, and they sit there in it for so long.
Yeah.
I remember this whole thing seemed so long when I was a kid of like, can we just get to the racing? And I would like to say as an adult, I maintain that opinion. It's like, this goes on way too long.
It goes on way too long. Yes, it does. So much fumbling and so much unnecessary shenanigans. Quincy and Max are up to no good. Obviously, they're here to steal the diamond, but first they have to get to it. Outside the room, creepy Nazi guy refuses to give the security computer to the guard, saying one does not part with the only copy in existence. He's really weird.
He's so weird.
He's so weird. He's like sweaty.
Something's going on here. Yeah. I can't quite figure it out.
Back inside, Quincy's struggling with a system of ropes to make his way to the diamond above the floor, while Max says he should just trust in technology, and he disarms the system with his own code. He has his own computer. We go through the gag again, with Quincy using the old thief toolkit to detect the infrared system, while Max uses his computer to just switch it off. We go for the rule of threes gag, and it comes to him taking the diamond off the pillow, but there's a problem. Max has the codes written down for him, but he can't tell if one digit is a 0 or a 9. Quincy proclaims that the old ways are the best ways and uses this sort of cartoon retractable arm to try and grab the diamond. He's startled when Max's pocket watch, which inexplicably has a very loud digital buzzer alarm, goes off. This is a recurring gag in the movie that never has any payoff or point to it, I will add.
It pays off in the end, doesn't it?
Kind of.
There's a callback at the end.
Kind of. I don't know why a pocket watch would have
really
a loud
strange,
digital alarm, but regardless. So anyway, yeah, Quincy's like, why didn't you get that fixed? And I'm like, why does it exist in the first place? Anyway.
It just felt like, there was and the writers were like, we need something. Well, we'll make his pocket watch make noise. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, good. It'll be a jump scare
Moving on.
that makes no sense whatsoever. So we cut back to Jim, who's making his way through a crowd, but he collides with a lady, and they do a little back and forth over a dropped helmet before Wheelie shows up. Wheelie gives Jim a speech about how Paris is the land of love, and how they need to make a deal between themselves to resist the girls.
Very Barney Fife there.
This
Super
is the
Barney.
peak Barney moment of the movie right here.
See, I'm like, but I'm still like confused. I was like, well, what about, he's married.
Yeah.
Where's his wife? And so it was jarring to have that conversation to me.
No mention of Carol. Oh, we do get a mention later in the film that Wheelie's been divorced twice, but no mention of Jim. There we go.
Maybe Jim has a different code, man.
Yeah. The racer code. We briefly return to the Diamond Vault, where Quincy is still struggling with his little mechanical arm.
Oh, please.
Speaking of jarring, the cutting back and forth between the two.
Yes. There's no like rhythm to it or like,
right.
It's just like, they're still screwing around with the diamond. Anyway, back at the race. It's very strange. Wheelie is regaling, and it's just like these weird little bits of business. Wheelie is regaling some random guy with a long story about a past race, This flat-faced guy stands silent for an awkward moment before saying in French that he doesn't understand English and walks off. So this is like just a gag. And we're back to the diamond. So it's just like throwing these little things. Like, what can we think of that's going on? Okay, he's talking to a guy who doesn't understand English. All right, back to the diamond. Two thieves are still struggling with the arm as guards are expected any minute. Quincy finally gives up and just grabs the diamond, which sets off the alarm. But the falling cage is stopped by the rope that he had previously tried to use to cross the floor. I don't think he knew that was going to happen, but whatever. They jump out a window, which is convenient that there's a window there, and flee as the guard and the creepy guy come in. Mr. Computer Man stamps his feet in protest, causing the cage to finally drop on him. Trapped. Gotcha.
Again.
Oh, boy.
Outside, the thieves come across the mustering spot for the race as police stream in from all angles. They're trapped. Nobody is to leave the area, which causes Jim to realize that they still need to qualify for the race. As the police flood the area, searching everyone in sight, the crooks sidle up to Herbie and surreptitiously slip the diamond into his gas tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all,
proceed.
The extras in these scenes outside the museum are horrible. like every shot, they're staring at the actors, like just staring at them. Like everybody in the crowd is just like they're like at like Epcot, watching street performers.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it felt like. And then there's a lot of like casual sheiks wandering around France too.
Yeah, I noticed that too. A little international flair.
International, yeah, that's right.
And then, of course, the gas tank on the Beetle is, it's enormous. The filler cap is, and that's not where it is on the normal Beetle. So, I just immediately I saw that. I thought that's comically large and is ridiculous.
Not only
hiding a diamond in it.
Not only not where it is on a Beetle, but not where it is on Herbie in any of the other movies. But it's
Correct.
just there so they can pop it in. And this diamond's the size of like a baseball. And but the rest of the movie is them trying to get it out of the gas tank. But my question is, how do you plan on getting it out? Because it's not like, oh, well, just give us like a second, we'll grab it out. Well, no, unless you're Plastic Man and can like magically reach into it or something. But
that's a
recurring issue throughout.
I'm again going back to who was in the writing room when they did this. Like, there's so many other places they could have hidden this that would have made more sense.
Yeah, totally. But, there are places to hide it in a car. You could.
Andy, do you feel seen right now?
Yes, I was just about to say, I feel so much better knowing that you guys had problems with all of this. Because I was like, they're just.
Although I got to tell you, I kind of wanted to come in there like defending it all. Like, what are you talking about, Andy? What's the problem?
Andy, why can't you have fun, Andy?
Yeah, why don't you just lighten up, Andy? Cars have gas tanks, don't they? Why not put one in there?
So they slip the diamond in the gas tank. They plan to come back and grab it, apparently instantly after they get patted down. But as they're being frisked, Jim and Wheelie show up and drive Herbie off to qualify for the race.
Another thing that cracks me up about this bad plot device is that they're like, oh, here, let's put it in this gas tank in this car. And they're like, whoa, the car's moving? What?
Yeah.
It's like, why are they so shocked that the car's going away? Cars move. Like, what did you think it was going to do?
And then they're like, we'll never see it again.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's in the race. But I love how they sort of despair that they'll never see the car again. The helpful reporter guy pops into frame and says, no, you will be able to see him in the showroom on the Champs-Elysees this very afternoon.
That was so
like a
convenient.
Wayne's World gag or something.
Yeah. So they feel good about that. And we cue some sinister music as we cut to a trademark French inspector surveying the crime scene. He's accompanied by Detective Fontenoy, who is both a Lost to Time Sacha Baron Cohen character
Yes.
and a shameless attempt to ride the success of the Inspector Clouseau films.
So I was going to say that when Sacha Baron Cohen came about, I thought he reminded me of someone, and it took me to watching this movie again to realize
Yep.
This is it.
This is it, man. I had the same reaction when he became a thing. I was like, I know he's definitely a guy I know, and this is that guy.
Right.
Fontenoy is a bumbling around. He's trying to do police work, but he's overeager. There's this theme of him being competent, but also a spaz. But
he also like hyperventilates a lot.
He does this like sort of donkey hyperventilate thing where he like throws his head back and goes, oh.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if what kind of person this or what kind of character he was supposed to be. I mean, he was just so goofy, and I was like, is this guy kind of a little bit mentally challenged? I mean, I wasn't quite sure.
The world may never know. Inspector Bichet is clearly uninterested in whatever Fontenoy has found, and uninterested in the proceedings in general. He's kind of over it all. We get a gag about the computer security guy accidentally setting off the alarm and trapping the inspector under the cage before we return to the racetrack, where Von Stickel is looming around waiting to slam on Herbie when Jim and Wheelie show up. It's Herbie's time to qualify, but things start going astray when Herbie catches the sight of a luscious little Lancia, which is also getting ready to race. Herbie is basically panting and starts creeping up on the Lancia, causing Jim and Wheelie to take notice that something is happening. That's very strange.
So,
this was creepy.
Herbie subscribes. Yeah. He subscribes to the middle schoolboy approach to impressing women. Clearly, just
very much
girl.
So. Yes, yeah. One of the race heats begins. Herbie isn't supposed to race, but he peels off at top speed in pursuit of the Lancia, who is racing. He catches up with the pack and starts cutting up for the Lancia. He's making a scene and playing romantic music on the radio. Then he and the Lancia start drifting back and forth across the road.
Take it easy, Herbie.
Yeah, it's hardcore. Jim's trying to retake control, and Herbie's swerving all over the road. Wheelie figures out what's up, and Jim opens the sunroof so he can stand up and try to somehow relay to the Lancia's driver that it's not his fault. It's Herbie.
Makes sense.
For some reason, his weird gestures don't exactly convey to the other driver that he has a sentient car with a mind of its own, and the driver shakes their hand in rage at the grinning Jim. Jim's just like grinning and shrugging and pointing at Herbie. It's not his best moment. It's pretty inexplicable. The other race cars speed by while Herbie continues to swerve down the road until both cars come to a stop, nose to nose. The other driver gets out, and guess what? It's the lady that Jim ran into in the crowd before. A lady driver.
What?
I know.
We don't allow their kind here.
She tells him off and accuses him of harassing her because she is a lady driver. And he tries to explain the Herbie phenomenon, but shockingly, she doesn't believe that. Back at...
Yeah, I mean, he keeps like pushing full Herbie.
Yeah, you gotta
Tennessee Steinmetz style, but it's like, dude, it took you forever. You've been through this,
right?
Is there a better way to communicate this? I don't understand.
He's like, oh, he's like a person.
He's got a passport.
Yeah,
come on. He pays taxes. Come on,
you got to lead into that. Yeah, you're right. He just goes full bore. There's no like secrecy with anyone. He's just like, no, you don't. Sorry, it's Herbie. I do love when he's like, it's Herbie's fault. She's like, oh, you're blaming it on your mechanic. And they cut to Don Knotts, who's like woozy from the car going back and forth. And he's just, the look on his face is pretty, it's just this long amazing take of him being like, ugh. And Jim's like, no.
That wasn't great.
It's a fun little take. So anyway, they're back at race headquarters now. She's continuing to chew him out, joined by one of the French judges who is none too happy with Jim, and he's chewing him out too. Jim and Wheelie, in turn, chew out Herbie, And they head off to qualify just in time to have their chops busted once more by Von Stickel and his, like, Aryan French pal, who is standing by. Oh, the race begins, and Von Stickel and his pal are trying to freeze out Herbie. Jim admits.
Oh, let's point out that Herbie is the only car with two people in it.
At some point I wrote that down because that confuses me so much. And I mean, obviously the reason so Jim has somebody to talk to, but it is so bizarre that all the other cars are these like fancy sports cars with one driver, and then Herbie has two people inside. Really weird.
All the other mechanics are on the sidelines, and that was another plot thing that I think that the writers put in that just did not make sense. It was very convenient for them.
I guess when they raced with 3 in the Love Bug, they figured, what's 2? You know, to everybody else.
When they had Buddy Hackett and his butane torch, when he doesn't know how to do anything except weld. Yeah, maybe so. So Jim admits that he's rusty as they're racing and winds up getting run off the road by Von Stiegel. And then they see the launch.
It's like, does Jim even race? I've started to really get... It's like, how much is Jim racing ever?
Well, he even admits at a later point in the movie that it's not really him; it's the car.
Yeah.
So, like, what is your contribution to this scenario, Jim?
He's come to terms with it at least. So.
Yeah.
Herbie's broken his
that's
bill.
true. Unlike the first movie where he's like, "Oh, it's the driver. The car is just my, tool or whatever." It's a great driver. So he really has turned around. He's come to realization. So. They see the launch off a side road, and Herbie leaves the track entirely to give chase. So they've lost the first qualifying round. No dice. Later that day, Quincy and Max are in the showroom waiting for Herbie to show up. Max has been on the horn with their boss, Double X, who isn't happy about having lost the diamond in Herbie's gas tank. Herbie rolls in, and before the critics can sidle over to Herbie, a French announcer says that they're going to show a movie about the route of the race. And so they are going to turn off the lights in the room. But before the curtains close, Herbie sees the Lancia drive past and heads out of the room when darkness sets in. Max and Quincy, thinking the car is still there, sidle over to grab the diamond. But first, Max's inexplicable pocket watch alarm goes off. And no one seems to notice. There's no effect. It just is a thing that happens. And then they bumble into the podium, which is holding the race trophy. The lights come up, and they've broken the trophy and made a mess. And Jim notices that Herbie's gone. So he and Wheelie go off in search of their runaway car. Herbie's driving through the winding Parisian streets, and when he finds his Lancia, we get a prolonged skit where a truck driver almost hits an old lady carrying a bunch of bread, which she drops, and then they start yelling at each other for a long time.
That's a crazy scene, though. I mean, the stunt there felt really dangerous.
Yeah, because it is like, it happens in like one take, and it is a big old truck. So he had to not run over the old lady in real life. They're fighting, and as they're fighting, the truck blows a lot of sooty exhaust over Herbie. And when Herbie finally gets to the Lancia and tries to creep up on her, he's all ashy. So he finds out some guys pass. It's the old guys holding a mirror gag, except it doesn't break this time. It's just so Herbie can see how filthy he is. And
I have never seen anybody crossing the street carrying a mirror that size.
An enormous mirror just bare with nothing on it. Yeah, same. All they needed to do was like be carrying it to like a watermelon stand or something like that. So once Herbie sees how nasty he is, he drives off to take a bath in a fountain. Watching all this transpire is a French waiter who looks like Carl Pilkington, who stares blankly at the proceedings throughout. Herbie comes back from the fountain with some flowers for a special lady. He's picked them up in his bumper. They have a little cut where he kind of tosses them up and she catches it with her windshield wiper, which is fun. And they flash their lights at each other for a while and wind up taking off for parts unknown.
I'd say that when he had the soot all over him, he like deflates a little bit. There's a lot of crazy Herbie effects in this movie. Like the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, they took it up a notch. Yeah.
Yeah, they
It was
really did.
really out of hand.
Like a lot of like real practical effects that
Yeah.
stunt cars and stuff. So I mean that is a little bit of an achievement for them. A lot of gags. The waiter, who has continued to watch all this happen in amazement, eventually gives up trying to serve his customer, who is an amazing French random actor, 70s actor kind of guy. And the waiter just downs a big old glass of red wine that he was serving to the guy, but he gives up and just drinks it himself.
So why is the dating scene in Paris always the same? It's like some guy like pleading with some woman to be interested, and she's just like disinterested all the time. It seems like that's like the stereotype.
Well, this guy was just mad that the waiter wasn't bringing him his wine fast enough. He need that wine.
It was a very American attitude with a French accent.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Extras from Impressions de France. So we cut to a scenic park where Herbie and the Lancia are driving around while romantic 70s music plays. Diane, who is the lady driver, has apparently driven her expensive race car just to lunch.
Like you do.
Exactly.
As you do, comes out of the restaurant and thinks the Lancia has been stolen, which, why are you driving it around? The befuddled waiter is just starting to tell her what happened when Jim and Wheelie show up in search of Herbie. She is not happy to see them, and is even less happy when the waiter tells her that the cars stole each other. Back in the park, the two cars are still cavorting, and Jim, Diane, and Wheelie are in a cab looking for them. Diane isn't really receptive to the Herbie story still.
Yeah, but hang on a second. They drive around, like Herbie and the other car drive around for like what seems like forever.
Yeah, they're all over the place. They're driving along the banks of the Seine.
Which is a great scene.
They run a bunch of fishing Frenchmen into the river. I love the guy who just kind of slides down slowly.
Doesn't seem smart swimming in that river, but
No.
Seems like they could have gotten by, they could have gone to the edge and just stood there, but,
they went in.
That was the most dangerous stunt in the entire movie. Is going in that water in the 70s, especially. Back in the cab, the driver is laughing and tells Jim and company that the radio said that a couple of cars have taken a ride on the Bateau Mouche. Jim realizes, well, that's got to be Herbie, because who else would it be? And they head for the Seine. Sure enough, Herbie and the Lancia are passing beneath on a boat. Jim thinks it's funny. Diane does not. And without a word, she storms off.
I'm with Diane. I don't think it's funny either.
So, he asked her out on a date here.
Yeah, he's like, maybe I can explain over dinner.
Hey, my wife's not here. Maybe we can go out to dinner and we can talk about this.
Yeah. Jim's been out of a lot of games over the last 12 years, I think, judging from his moves with Diane in this movie. He's as rusty in love as he is on the racetrack. So, with her storming off in a huff, a wordless huff, which is the worst kind of huff, we end our first act.
All right, Act 2. We start with Jim alone in his hotel room, reading a French newspaper with the headline, "Can Crazy Car Come Back?" Jim is saying to himself, "I don't know, Herbie. 12 years is a long time. Hope we can handle it. Hope I can handle it." And finally, we've reached the deepest, most emotional and self-reflective point of the film.
It's like Jim pondering his mortality is quite a moment for the Herbie franchise.
He's questioning whether, or not he has what it takes to win again. And when this happened, I thought, okay, maybe this is going to be a new vein that this film's going to kind of stick with this, and this is going to be the heart of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But sadly, no. So Wheelie enters, saying he's had a talk with Herbie and has straightened him out because he will not tolerate having a car that falls in love with another car.
Which bigotry.
Also, Wheelie, man, Wheelie's got some real women trust issues.
He does.
Major.
He tells him that they are there for one thing only, and that's to have the greatest comeback in racing car history, which means no women in training camp.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Jim gives an assuring nod, and then they are interrupted by a knock at the door, and it's Detective tell me if I'm saying this right. Fontenoy?
Yeah.
Fontenoy? And the famous yet modest Inspector Boucher. Jim introduces himself and Wheelie, and the detectives say that they are there questioning everyone who was in the area at the time of the diamond heist, and Jim and Wheelie happily oblige. Meanwhile, Max and Quincy are snooping around Herbie, who's parked out front in front of the hotel, and they're inconspicuously trying to retrieve the stolen diamond that was placed in Herbie's gas tank earlier in the film. As they are trying to open the gas cap, Herbie rolls forward, and the annoyed Max tells Quincy to put the handbrake on. Since the door is locked, Quincy tries to reach in through the wind wing window, and Herbie slams it shut on his fingers. Max says that he'll just hotwire the car, and they'll retrieve the diamond back at the garage.
Why is Herbie like parked on the street here at night?
Yeah.
This goes back to the launch going to lunch. It's like,
Is the Laser 917 parked on the street somewhere out there in Paris?
In Montmartre, we just park on the street.
Yeah, but so anyways, the frustrated Quincy has had enough of Herbie's antics, and when he tries to hit Herbie with a sign, Herbie smacks him with a car door and spews exhaust all over Max, which is just hilarious. Herbie speeds off around the block as the two criminals give chase in amazement that the car started it and drove off by itself, but Herbie fools them by simply driving back around the building and hides in the alley. The following day, we're back at the raceway, and Jim and Wheelie anxiously rev Herbie's engine as they get ready to start the next qualifying event. Unfortunately, Herbie is sad and sluggish off the line, and they soon find themselves in the back of the pack. Wheelie says his whole lecture must have fallen on a deaf carburetor. Womp womp. Jim gives Herbie a good talking to, saying he needs to either get the lead out of his pants or he's going to ship him back to the States to be stuffed and hung on a wall in Retirement Village. But Herbie doesn't seem to care. He continues to poke along down the racetrack until suddenly he sees the Lancia, who arrived at the event just moments earlier with Diane. Well, that's all Herbie needs, and pops his signature wheelie and takes off like a rocket. And they soon reach the front of the pack, and Jim is convinced that Herbie is doing all this for them until Wheelie realizes that it's the Lancia that he's doing it for. And as they drive by the Lancia, it flips her headlights and in a flirty manner, which puts Herbie into a series of 360 spins. I mean, what'd you think of that?
I would like to know how they did that. There were some tricks in this movie I would actually like to know how they did, because it's pretty wacky.
Yeah, I agree.
It's odd how the French countryside shares
like
a striking
Laguna Seca
resemblance to the California countryside.
Yeah. Those fire hazards in near Paris.
I believe I read that they shot the qualifying scenes on the same track they used, I think, the Jackrabbit Run track from the first movie.
Yeah. It looks like it.
Well, it doesn't really matter now because Herbie has shattered von Stickel's time, putting them at the top of the poll with the best qualifying time. And von Stickel and his, is it Rebu? Is that his name?
Oh, I don't know.
The blonde.
I don't know what his name is. The blonde guy. Yeah.
I think it's
Depardieu-ish.
Claude or something like that.
Rebu stand nearby to congratulate Jim, saying, "He's just on the route to test my dust tomorrow." That's my best French accent. And Von Stickel says he will turn Jim's hello comeback into goodbye forever.
Goodbye forever.
That's the most serious trash talk I've ever heard. Wheelie says that those two are just a bunch of charm school dropouts as he and Jim bask in their achievement. Diane is nearby, and she's about to make her qualifying run and observes Jim and Herbie's success, but looks none too pleased about it. And this was all that she needed. This is all the motivation she needed, and during her qualifying run, she drives the Lancia at top speeds, matching Jim and Herbie's qualifying time. And as Herbie crosses the finish line, I mean, he just swoons, or excuse me, as the Lancia crosses the finish line, he's just swoons. He's like kind of hung over the barrier there.
Yeah, he's got like his elbows up on the rail and just kind of like leans in.
Effects.
It's just so odd.
It's very odd.
Well, Jim goes to congratulate Diane, who thanks him for staying off the track this time so she could show what she could do. Jim says it wasn't exactly her, and it was her car.
Jim.
Diane with the ever-growing chip on her shoulder says Jim has a real problem with women in racing.
Agreed. Just women.
Jim tries to explain that Herbie is not like other cars, and he's in love with Diane's Lancia. But Diane isn't buying it, saying, when the men come by from the booby hatch, go quietly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Definitely. And imagine how insane this must sound to her. You know, oh no, it's your car. She's showing off for my car because they're in love.
Yeah.
Okay, dude.
Jim says he's just trying to warn her about her car. And Diane says she's in this race to win, and frankly, she'd like to see Jim and his car disappear entirely, which leaves Jim speechless.
Stuck.
Later, Jim and Wheelie are driving Herbie along a remote French road, when Max and Quincy suddenly appear behind them and pull up next to them, flashing a gun and demanding they pull over. And let's talk about Jim's look here now.
Yeah.
He's got the cap, the red turtleneck, the jean jacket.
Yes, the turtleneck.
Oh yeah. Always.
Yeah,
Always.
That cap too.
Now we've established in like the previous episode that Jeff, you kind of stole some looks from Jim. I mean, did you ever steal this look?
I did not. No, I only no. I mean, I wish I stole more of his look from the Love Bug, but I never went this far.
I'll agree to that. You never crossed this line.
Well, Jim pulls over, and just as Max and Quincy get out of their car, Herbie takes off over the bank on the side of the road, across country, and into a gypsy camp. Well,
man.
Max and Quincy are not far behind as the two cars destroy the gypsy camp. You know, and as soon as I saw it, I just started thinking, gypsies, we are the gypsies. We're here today and gone tomorrow. Cheerful, we're always cheerful. Our life is nothing but a happy song.
Wow, you know that better than I do, man.
Our other gypsy movie.
It made me think about the writer's room again. You know, like, did they just have like, okay, France. I'm just thinking France. What can we put in this? You know, you got some French bread. You got the Seine. You got the Eiffel Tower. We got to have a gypsy camp. You know,
Yeah, there's gypsies in Europe. Yeah.
Hello, gypsy.
Yeah, those gypsies. This is more Golden Oak Ranch shenanigans.
Yeah,
pretty much anytime Herbie drives off the road, he's back at the old Golden Oak Ranch, going into or out of the same pond that he skipped across in the first.
Yes.
In a nearby tent, a gypsy fortune teller is looking into her crystal ball, telling an old man his future, saying, darkness is about to fall upon you. And that's just as Max and Quincy's car drives by, causing the tent to fall on the two occupants. And the old man exclaims, Michael,
amazing! It's a great line read. It salvages a dumb joke.
So yes, the destruction continues as Herbie jumps a ravine, crashing into a table of food, sending a cooked pig into the air, which eventually lands in Max and Quincy's car through their moonroof. And
I just love like the long shot of just it in the sky. It's like flying. It's like Super Monty Python or something. It's like they dropped it from a helicopter or something.
That's true. And when their car landed, that car looked like it had been totaled.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say the Mercedes-Benz, when it hit, you could see the suspension just below. Like, it just bottoms out and just nothing left.
And then the very next
cut,
scene,
they're just flying.
Those Benzes, man. They can go. So Wheelie says that they're still after them, and Jim says, hey, I think they are trying to kill us. Like, come on, Jim. It's been a rough 12 years for Jim.
Yeah. He's been out of the game.
Anyways, they drive through at a construction site, through a cement pipe, and the crooks pursue, but their car doesn't fit and they crash. Blah, 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 blah. This movie is so tiresome at this point. Does it really matter what else happens
I
here?
like
And
how
I
they're
had to
putting
say-
in like a new aqueduct by the gypsy camp or whatever. They're running a new sewer line to the gypsy camp.
And I think that's what it is. It's these tiresome gags that are just just constant, that, just stereotypical things that they
I mean, it's all like
put
it,
in.
it could be happening in like Hazard in the
That's
new
what I say. Yeah,
Hazard.
it's definitely. That's what I was getting. It's just there's always road construction and hazard, but there's never paved roads anywhere.
So Jim and Wheelie get away, but Wheelie thinks it's that cute little time bomb, Diane, who sent those guys after them. And this leads Wheelie to go on a tirade about how females never say what they mean, which makes the female species more deadlier than the male. And
What in the world?
And he reveals he is his. I also have a mother and 3 sisters and 2 ex-wives to prove it. And
I
they
do
never
love
told
the
him.
line when he says female of the species is more deadly than male. Jim says, "You read that somewhere."
They said they never told him they wanted him out of the house, but every time he came home, the lock was changed. And I mean, that really paints an interesting picture of Wheelie. I
Dark.
mean, it makes I want to see the Wheelie prequel. I think it would be good, like a Better Call Saul kind of thing.
What if this is Mr. Furley
Oh,
under a different
great.
name? He finally
I
got
love
the
it.
boot and headed to Europe with Jim Douglas. They met at the Regal Beagle.
Jim and Wheelie agree they need to teach Diane the rules of the game. Well, that night, Jim confronts Diane, who angrily denies any involvement, saying she doesn't need anybody to win her races for her. She says that's the trouble with men, that they don't think a woman can do anything, and starts throwing pottery pieces at Jim's head. But at the same time, outside Wheelie, the gag here is Wheelie's telling Herbie about Jim's a quiet sort of guy, but when a fight is inevitable, he never ducks. And then, of course, cut right back to Jim ducking behind a door as Diane continues to lob items at him, saying that she's
This
Yeah.
really stuck in my head. As
Oh
a
yeah.
kid.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this I don't know, for some reason this scene was really hardwired.
Because like the timing of it, like I think it's the gag is not like an innovative gag of like Wheelie telling Herbie all this stuff while the opposite is happening, but like it's really like well cut. Like I think the timing of it is really well done, and there's like watching it now, there's something like weirdly cathartic about Diane unloading on Jim because he so deserves it. And she's like, my mother and my father said I shouldn't do this. And like my aunt, and my uncle said I shouldn't do this. And but I'm going to do it. So
See that? Yeah, that's interesting though that you pointed out that you feel like he deserves it, because I feel like this movie has an obvious tone of women's empowerment throughout the whole thing. And I know this is late 70s, so we're talking like the second wave of feminist movement and things like that. So I just felt it could be that I just watched Avengers Endgame and I saw the all female scene
yeah,
at the very
Yeah.
end, and the heavy handedness of where I think it's great. I think there was some heavy handedness throughout that piece, and so it could be that that's kind of affected the way I saw Diane's attitude. But regardless, I mean, she's very emotional about it. And I didn't think it was very cool of her to be throwing stuff at Jim's head. I thought she could have handled that better, but I don't know. She may have had a pretty rough time before.
She's
so
had
I don't know.
enough.
Yeah.
She's sick of it. He's just the straw that broke the camel's back.
It's a big race, man. Big race.
Yeah,
she
a
wants to
lot
win.
riding on us. Yeah.
Well, while this is going on, Max is on a payphone with his employer, Double X, saying they've had another complication, referring to their destroyed Mercedes-Benz. But who's Double X? Why, it's really the famous Inspector Boucher. The inspector is at the police station berating Max for losing track of Herbie and Douglas. And fortunately for them, at that very moment, who walks into the police station? That's right, Jim and Wheelie, who ask for Inspector Boucher, much to his surprise. Jim asks the inspector if they could put Herbie into protective police custody for the night since someone is after them. The inspector, who's still on the phone with Max, agrees and But realizing that he's holding the phone with Max on the other end of the line, he oddly pretends that it's his girlfriend / mistress or something like that. And this causes Wheelie to give a very Don Knotts approving sly smirk as he and Jim kind of awkwardly leave. That was a strange kind of change, a gear change, you know.
Yeah, but they're like, yeah, all right.
So after they leave, the inspector / Double X quickly tells Max that he has the car, and he tells them where to meet them, which ends their phone conversation. The inspector walks out onto the street to take possession of Herbie, just as the bumbling detective Fontenoy arrives, who says that since the inspector has so much on his mind, he would gladly take care of the car for him. Well, this makes the inspector angry and frustrated, and he snaps at Fontenoy, but he nervously plays it off as Jim and Wheelie look on in a confused and kind of concerned manner. But as everyone leaves, Inspector Boucher admits to himself that indeed Fontenoy is, oddly enough, his very best man.
This was another thing that stuck in my mind a lot, pretty distinctively, was the way he slaps his hands when he's trying to get him like to stop messing with Herbie. The inspector slaps Fontenoy's hands and then does this like really crazy nervous laugh, like ha 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 ha, and that really stuck in my brain for some reason. I don't know why, because it's
so
like
shocking.
Yeah, it's like weird, like I don't know. There's something really weird about it.
Well, later that night, the inspector / Double X is on the phone again with Max and Quincy, who say they've covered the whole city looking for Herbie, but still can't find him. Double X says that in the morning before the race, as Herbie fuels up, they need to be there. And this brings Act 2 to a close.
Well, it's race day in the City of Lights, and France is abuzz with race fans waiting for the big event. Wheelie is getting ready as the onlookers look on a little too closely at Wheelie struggling to put his coveralls on. But where is Herbie? Well, it seems Detective Fontenoy is running late. Seems odd, being that he was such a thorough detective with a keen attention to detail, that he would allow something so costly to happen. But
yeah,
our jewel thieves are waiting, disguised as fuel men. Max has a bow tie on because that's normal and doesn't draw attention. Then again, this is France in the late 70s, so maybe that's a thing. Who am I to say? Diane comes by to apologize for throwing things at Jim. Jim keeps referring to Herbie as if he's a person, which is still a little off-putting to Diane. But she's starting to come around a little bit. But we see that Herbie still hasn't arrived. Bruno and Claude come by to take a few more jabs at Jim.
They said something like, you know the saying, they never come back.
You know what they say, Douglas? They never come back.
This was something we used to say all the time.
All the time. And I still do. They never come back.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is just as fresh as the day I first saw it.
So how much money is the Bell Helmet Company dishing out for this movie?
Oh, no kidding.
Because they are everywhere.
Tell you what, I need a Dover fan belt hat, though.
I do. I was thinking that they need to have those at the parks, man. I'd totally buy one.
That'd be great.
Bruno in his Laser 917 and Claude in his De Tomaso Pantera. I may have mispronounced that first one. But they line up in position 3 and 4. As the cars line up, Diane can't get her Lancia to move. Jim tries to explain that the car won't leave without Herbie, and Diane isn't having it. Willie knows what to do. He's good at talking to cars. He tells the Lancia that Herbie has moved on and it's time to get over Herbie. After some back and forth with the mechanics and Wheelie, the Lancia finally gets to moving and takes the second position with Herbie's spot vacant.
My favorite part of this little speech is that he has a little wallet-sized picture of Herbie in his wallet. And he does it's how it is with Herbie. Now you see him, closes the wallet. Now you don't. It's but I just love that he has that picture. It's not like him and Herbie or Jim and Herbie. It's just this little photo of Herbie in his wallet. I love it.
So it begs the question though, wouldn't the cars see through their headlights?
Yeah, I don't know why he goes. He's pop the because it's in the trunk. So open the engine, and he's talking to the engine. Why you gotta talk to the headlights? That's what. Look her in the eyes, man.
Or if John Lasseter's running the movie, you talk to the windshield. But.
True.
My eyes are right here, Willie.
Exactly. Eyes up front, man. Come on.
Yeah. Willie's looking at the wrong place.
Up here.
With no car, Jim and Willie can do nothing but watch as their hopes seem dashed. The cars go flying past the Arc de Triomphe, and Jim and Wheelie are throwing in the towel when suddenly an armored truck appears. Wheelie goes on a tirade and says what we've all been thinking. He's had it with the French, the men, the women. He even calls the kind detective a French pastry.
I mean, what is he doing? What's the guy doing?
Yeah,
Why is he late?
He's late.
There's
and
no
doesn't
explanation.
seem remorseful or explanation.
Right.
I will say I thought it was funny when the cars are revving up to take off. You get the traditional race movie shot of each exhaust is they're revving up to go. It's pretty great. Some nice sound. But I love that each car is basically putting out pure coal. Coal dust. It's they've got a boiler going.
Like a locomotive.
Yeah. Just pure black soot.
Great shot of them walking down together from where they were going to race to right before the guy gets there.
Yeah, a couple of real nice real movie shots.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a real movie.
Alas, all is forgiven when Herbie appears, and the inspector's plans are about to be complete when his goons get ready to fill up Herbie, only to have his plans foiled again by Fontenoy. Now, the detective is getting wise to the notion that maybe, just maybe, there's a reason everyone is after Herbie. Maybe he has the diamond after all. Herbie can't find the Lancia and doesn't want to race. Knotts has another heart-to-heart with Herbie, telling him that the Lancia split without Herbie. She's over you. She didn't want to have anything to do with you. Angered by the news, Herbie takes off and is flying through the course.
Man, I mean, gosh, how'd they do that? I mean, they got the Champs-Élysées for this? It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking that a lot because these are real shots of they must have shut down half of Paris to shoot this movie. It's crazy.
It's pretty wild. Yeah.
So yeah, I did some digging here. I couldn't find anything about a road course in Paris. I thought maybe they were shooting while there was a road course set up for a real race. And because there was, either they did that and I couldn't find any evidence of it, or they went to a ton of trouble to go through and put out hay bales, to put up sponsor signage.
Yeah. Crowds.
And then to have bystanders everywhere and even race officials everywhere.
Yeah.
It had to have been a road course that they were set up already and they were getting to use it during the qualifying day or something. But Fontenoy once again has gotten the best of the inspector and notified the Monte Carlo authorities to seize and inspect Herbie when he arrives. As the car exits, I'll have to point out the Fontenoy has had Herbie's gas filled up before they left, so no need to use the gas can or the fuel guy goons. And
but again, what was their plan to because they're standing in front of literally everybody is looking at them. the gas guys we're gonna fill them up, but we're gonna get that diamond out of there. Like, at what point in the gas filling process do you like stick your arm down in the gas tank and like root around a while? Like, oh, this is perfectly normal behavior.
As the cars exit the city, Herbie has made up what amounts to almost 10 minutes of lost time and is moving through the field. Herbie catches up to the laser 917, but he is blocking them from passing. The lightning-quick Herbie fakes right and goes left, only to get run off the road by the dastardly Bruno von Stickel. So, I'd like to take a sidebar here, if I may, and go down memory lane. So in the dawn of the age of internet trolling, bulletin board systems, and BBSs were all the rage. And before you could go on to the public forums of the internet, you had to dial in to a local bulletin board and harass people. So several other people on this podcast who will remain nameless all had aliases. And I had just gotten back from Europe, a trip to Europe, and I had gone to Germany, and I decided to come up with a name for my fake alias. But I wish so much that I had gone with Bruno von Stickel as my name, because that is like so strong and villainous. I love it. But
that's great. He's got, like Michael said, he has that serious music that plays every time. Yeah. He's got that signature move of not letting you pass with his wide car. That's his deal. His taunting glances.
Herbie crashes through a hedgerow and into a body of water that looks eerily familiar, like we've seen it before in another movie. When a plucky car skips over the water into safety. Seems strange, but couldn't have been the same lake because we're in France, not in California. Willie, who has his head above water, acting as a human periscope, is telling Jim, who's submerged with Herbie, how to get around a pair of Frenchmen enjoying an afternoon of fishing.
It goes on for a long time.
An awfully long time. Which I don't know why I never thought of it as a kid, but I'm watching it now. I'm like, Jim has been underwater quite a while.
Yeah. That was exactly what I had in my nose. I was like, Jim's dead.
Like we hear him give like a gurgled which way he says something. I can't remember what he says now, but it's
like the pipe drop on the French guy in the boat. It's great. Plops. He really comes up for air though when he gets out.
Yeah, he sells it. He sells it at the end.
Everyone emerges and joins the race. To the surprise of an onlooking gardener. Yeah. Just like that, Herbie is back at the front of the pack, with Bruno back to his old ways until Herbie sneaks around Bruno, who spins out in a small French village.
Man, Herbie has no problem, speed-wise at all.
No,
the field.
He can burn, yeah.
Yeah.
With only the Alps in the way...
Alps.
And Bruno's laser 917 behind him, Herbie is cruising along, heading to the victory, and the comeback is complete. Roll credits. Wait, what's this? A helicopter.
Having Bruno, that's what this film needs.
The weirdest helicopter I've ever seen.
It's a big boy, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Bond villain.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, from Russia with Love.
Yeah.
If having Bruno being dastardly wasn't enough, now they're up against Quincy and Max, who are doing the old road sign arrow switcheroo.
Oh, I can't believe they went back to this gag.
I know. Come on.
It's tiresome, I'm telling you.
It didn't send you back down the mine with the old miner guy, but still.
And the whole time I've written it, I was like, where is Monte Carlo? Why have we not got to Monte Carlo yet? It's in the title.
He's going to there.
Yeah, he's getting there eventually.
It's going to Monte Carlo, not he's in Monte Carlo.
Herbie at Monte Carlo.
Herbie's at Monte Carlo.
Accurate title.
I guess.
Herbie is now heading down an Alps back road, quote unquote Alps, back road
Man, this
along
is kinda
cliffs.
rough.
Yeah, this is where the Californianess really starts to stand out.
Yes.
And then when it's not California, it's the bad blue screen.
The stunt driver driving down that road was really going for it, though, here. I mean, it did not look like they were under cranking it. They were
Yeah, I noticed
was
that
moving
too. Yeah,
down a very precarious road.
real driving.
Yeah. Herbie comes to a dead end only.
But why does this road exist? It's my question. Like, we will build a road up to the mountain and then stop.
So Herbie comes to a dead end on the only painfully outdoor set piece of the whole movie. Wheelie feels they've taken a wrong turn and hops out to look around only to fall out and almost to his death. After the near-death experience, Wheelie seems rather
But it's
composed.
like, did he not see the road? Like, why did he
Exactly.
No peripheral vision for
he
Wheelie.
just whoa?
Wheelie decides that yodeling is the best way to get help, as you do when you're in the Alps. He continues to yodel after being told not to.
I love
Yes,
that it
right.
echoes. And he's like, "Hey, somebody's out there," and he's like, "Oh wait, I've never heard an echo before."
Yeah, I've never heard a real echo before. I was like, for real?
He grew up in the wide open spaces, I guess.
He grew up in Kansas, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The echoing causes a single rock to fall, which leads to
Oh,
a
man.
full-blown landslide.
Great stock footage here.
Yeah.
Of the-
Cut to stock footage of rocks.
we have anything of rocks falling?
Large rocks rain down on Herbie, and they manage to survive unscathed.
Yeah, this would have
Yes,
like
completely.
trashed the car.
Not even the windshield has a crack.
Yeah.
Herbie's tough. When Quincy
Gorilla
and Max
Glass.
arrive in a 1968 Renault 10 with the from the opposite direction, which begs the question: how did they manage to get there from the other side?
Yeah, where are they coming from?
Yeah, which side were they coming from? Because they were just up the other road leading in, but maybe, okay, whatever. With guns drawn, the jig is up. But not for old Herbie. His windshield wipers his windshield wiper sprayers peek up out of the rubble and spray the goons who are momentarily blinded by the antics. Out of harm's way, Herbie begins to yodel himself, causing Wheelie to join in and creating another landslide.
Good grief.
Pretty ridiculous.
Herbie's quickly back on track, down the mountain, and back. The quote was "back on the beam," as Wheelie
Yeah.
referred to it. But they're in last place.
Again.
This should be a problem.
A knocking sound in the gas tank doesn't deter Jim and Wheelie, who go flying down the road, easily back into first place.
Yeah, no problem.
The knocking sound seems to be hindering Herbie's petrol consumption. The two pull over, and Wheelie reaches in the top of the fuel intake, mind you, and pulls an enormous rock, quote unquote. All the while, a familiar helicopter looms overhead.
It doesn't seem to. Yeah, I mean, like the guy filled up the gas tank. Just
Well,
How'd that
and they
happen?
didn't stop for gas anywhere between Paris and Monte Carlo.
that's what was cracking me up. Is all of them made it on one tank of gas.
Well, and it didn't start clunking around before that. It was very strange.
No.
And then, as you say, it's at the top of the tank. But I just love how he thinks it's like, yeah, it's a piece of quartz. There's tons of it around the quarry back home.
In Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a piece of quartz.
Jim recognizes it as the Netoile de Joie diamond and quickly puts the puzzle together, which gives our goons their entrance cue. Once again, Herbie creates a distraction, which allows Jim to put a karate chop and flip
Judo
move,
Jim, man.
So
flip
good,
move
so
on
good.
Max. That's right. leaving Wheelie to do the most Don Knotts thing of the whole movie. Coming at him with his own style of Don Knotts karate.
Yep.
Yeah. Classic.
He is quickly overpowered by Quincy. Max grabs his gun. Herbie backs up and knocks Quincy into a ravine, and Max's old buzzing watch distracts him, allowing Jim to punch him's lights out.
Why?
Down into the ravine. So the old watch comes back in. It's a nice callback there. A
Rule
MacGuffin,
of
if you
watch
will.
threes.
I tell you what, it's like I keep wanting this movie to be about racing because, I like the location shots when they actually do them. And
Yep.
it's like they should do it longer. But I got some serious anxiety when they were just sitting there talking about the diamond. Like, what is this? Huh? What is this? It's like, get back in the car.
Yeah, just go.
And go.
Clock's
and talk
ticking,
about
buddy.
it while you go.
Thank you.
It's so annoying.
There is a
and then
race
those
going
guys come, and it's like, oh, these guys are here.
I've never heard a real echo before.
Meanwhile, Von Stiekel's making time.
Yeah, he's blocking people left and right. Way up ahead.
Tied up and left behind, Herbie is guzzling the gas freely and heading to the front of the pack again.
Yeah.
No problem.
The goons
Just
have made it
let
back.
Herbie race, man. Let him race.
Yeah.
The goons have made it back to the helicopter to warn Double X that they've been bested, and Herbie is on his way to Monte Carlo.
Andy.
Finally,
Monte Carlo.
1 hour and 34 minutes is when we finally
Herbie
get
goes
to
to Monte Carlo. He's going. He's there now. That's
It's
I don't know how long
misleading.
it takes to drive from Paris to Monte Carlo in real life, but it seems like it's a pretty quick little jaunt for Herbie.
Yeah. The working title of this movie was Herbie Goes from Paris to Monte Carlo, but it was a little clunky. So they changed
yeah.
it.
It's a little. Back out to the front, the Lancia is the only car left. Suddenly, they pass Herbie's sweetheart half sunk in a nearby lake. Jim wants to stop. Wheelie wants to win. What does Herbie
Cold-blooded,
want to
man.
do?
Wheelie's cold-blooded.
Sometimes a comeback comes second. But Herbie, still sore that the Lancia didn't care that he was late to the race, could care less about her now. Jim, seeing what's happening, tells Herbie the truth that Wheelie lied to him to get him back in the race. Herbie races to the Lancia's side. Let's see.
Let me
What's
see
possible
here.
place?
Diane ain't in that much danger. Come on.
Yeah, for real.
Well, they didn't know that when they drove.
Oh, that's true. That's true. She's kind of floundering around in there.
Why is she floundering?
That car's not sinking. She
No.
could sit in her little chair and be just fine.
Can't she get out? I mean, why is this such a hard
Roll
problem?
down the window. She could fit out that window.
I
Yeah,
wrote
there's no
down,
way that thing had power windows. That's
I really miss Carol at this point.
Carol would have known what to do.
She would
Yeah.
have.
She'd have busted out that window.
Yeah.
Jim pulls Diane out just in time, and Herbie pulls his girlfriend out to the amazement of Diane. The cars pass one by one. Herbie doesn't want to leave her side. Diane gives Herbie a pep talk to go win it for her, which energizes our hero. Back in the police commissioner's office, Inspector Boucher is throwing Fontenoy under the bus, which I'm not really sure what that provides us, other than that Boucher is a scumbag, but kind of already knew that.
Let me say though that the Monte Carlo police guy who he's talking to is the French Alonzo Hawk. Just visually, he has got the Alonzo Hawk look.
And also, their accents are so bad. I can't even understand what they're saying. They're speaking English, but the French accent's just so thick that I can't even understand what they're saying. It was tough to follow at times.
The cars enter the Mediterranean Principality of Monaco, which I didn't know was a city-state.
Mm-hmm.
Guess I need to brush up on my French geography.
Princess Grace, man.
It's not French, though.
With just a few more cars to go, Herbie is back in it again. The Laser 917 passes the Tommaso Pantera, who has crashed into a pile of hay. In a switchback, Herbie passes to the chagrin of Claude, who's giving us some very angry fist shaking.
Yeah.
As the passing Volkswagen goes racing by.
When I was a kid, I always thought he was cheering him on. I thought he was like, "Yay, Herbie!"
Oh no. Yeah.
That's sweet, Jeff.
He came around.
Well, it's such a like gentle, angry hand motion. It's like,
With one car left, Herbie has his sights set on the finish line. Bruno is up to his old roadhog tricks. It looks like Herbie is bested with only one chance left, the tunnel. Bruno was right. Bruno was right, though. They never come back. Or do they? Suddenly, Herbie takes matters into his own hands and defies the laws of physics, climbing the walls of the tunnel and passing the Laser 917 completely inverted.
Amazing.
It's
prolonged inversion too.
yeah. Like I was thinking, like if he had just done a thing where, like a loop de loop, like a roller coaster kind of like loop, they could have played it off like under under like cartoon logic, but they're like up there like anti-gravity. Like that doesn't. But what's funny about this is I had actually put in my notes, like literally right before they went in the tunnel, I wrote, interesting that Herbie's racing is a lot more real world in this movie, a lot less cartoony stuff. Because it was so less cartoony than like splitting in half or like all the capers that they had, like especially in the first movie. And then I was like, oh, spoke too soon. The Herbie theme kicked in and the wackiness starts.
Yeah, cue rock and roller coaster move here.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Although they do have that cool cut as he's coming out of the tunnel where, I don't know how they did it, but he's like coming down the side of the tunnel and kind of shoots out ahead of the other car. So,
yes.
Like if they had just done it in one quick move, it would have been pretty neat.
That's the real tunnel there that they used to, the race used to go through Monte Carlo.
That's crazy.
Just a little tidbit. Oblivious to Herbie's ability to drive upside down, Bruno thinks it's over, only to have Herbie come shooting out, as Michael just pointed out, the last second, and take the lead, winning the Trans-France race, not associated with the Monte Carlo Grand Prix.
If that had been Tom Cruise, he'd have flipped him the bird, like Top Gun.
I thought that.
He gets in a great shrine.
Same thing.
Yeah, right.
Herbie's completed the comeback in true Rocky Balboa fashion, getting up off the mat over and over to show the world he's a fighter and a champion. Roll credits. Oh, wait. That jewel thief angle is still loose.
Oh, yeah, that old chestnut.
Let's tie that thing up real fast.
Right.
The inspector has come all the way from Paris to congratulate Jim and Wheelie. Jim reaches into his pocket to reveal they found the diamond. Just before Douglas hands it over, Fontenoy arrives to inform everyone that he's solved the case. He's captured the thieves. But Jim points out, surely they weren't working alone. Surely there had to be an insider, a mastermind, if you will. If not, that museum has some really lousy security. Well, it was some lousy security, but it was made worse by the fact that they only let one person know the security code. Well, that never occurred to anyone else to cross-reference that until now. Suddenly, the inspector brandishes a firearm, grabs the diamond, but old Herbie is on it. He runs over the inspector's foot, pops the bonnet, knocks the gun from his hand. Some slack-jawed locals arrive to witness the apprehension. Monsieur Ribou kisses Herbie on each number to show his gratitude, causing Herbie to blush, which was,
a weird effect.
It was weird.
Also prolonged.
Yeah.
Forever. I was like, okay.
Jim and Diane are out on a date to find that Herbie and the Lancia have gone out on a date too. They find Herbie, the Lancia, who's now called Giselle, and Wheelie enjoying the fireworks. Wheelie on a hot date with a blonde he met. And now we can roll credits.
Wheelie's got the he's got the he went full Mr. Furley there at the end with that white beret.
Yes, he did. He sure
Telling
did.
you, he might be Furley.
I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
I love that. I love that idea.
He just skipped out on her entirely. And I think that was the trophy girl maybe from the trophy presentation.
Immediate creeping from him on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking for
We
that
also
third wife.
got the because Jim Douglas is present at the trophy ceremony, we got an uncomfortable Asian person joke. With him saying goodbye in all the foreign languages and going to the Japanese photographer and saying sayonara. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever, Douglas. See you later.
See you around, Douglas.
Yeah. It kind of keys into the love bug with
Mr. Wong, was it?
yeah, and then the Pearl Diver and Boatniks too.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, well, we've done it. Part 3 of 4.
Oh boy, yeah.
Made it to Monte Carlo.
And from here to
Eternity.
yeah. To Jupiter and the infinite.
Well, it's that time. We're going to rate this sucker on our scale of 1 to 5. What? Robert, can you let us know what our scale is tonight?
Our scale is the diamond Étoile du Joie.
All right.
Wow, déjà. There's only one, but in our case, there's many. So
the infinity étoile de joie.
that's right. Plot and writing. I'm going to start with Andy Brown.
2. I've seen worse movies, but this was a 2. Moving on.
We'll go to Robert.
I'm going to have to go with Andy. It's, I mean, there's moments, but they're pretty far between that maybe sort of halfway get entertained. So it's 2.
I'll agree with that. I feel like the raw material of an interesting concept of a movie is there, but just like emphasis on the wrong parts and missed opportunities left and right. It's just 2. Michael?
Also 2. I totally agree that all the raw materials were there to do something interesting, and they focused on the wrong parts. There was too much going on. Should have kept it focused. I want Jim, Wheelie, and Herbie and a race, and not shenanigans. So, agreed.
I feel like it could have been, you could have had the love story or the jewel thing.
Yes.
But the love story and the jewel thing and the return to racing.
Yes.
It's crazy.
One of those 3 could have been interesting, but all 3 is too much, and none of them get their credit that they're due.
All right, we're going to move on to casting and acting. We'll start with Robert on this. How many étoiles de joie do you give it?
It's going to be a 2 again. It's not. There's a few moments, but nobody got utilized properly, I don't think, and a lot of it was just, yeah.
And we will go to Michael.
This is hard for me because I was super glad to see Dean Jones back. Super happy to see Don Knotts. Love Von Stiegel. Love that guy. So good. The French people less so. It's hard. I initially thought I may even go 4 on the strength of my love of Dean Jones, but I may just say 3.
I'm going to go off that. I agree with your notes. I'm going to give it a 2, though. I was just shocked. I feel like, not to his fault, but, Don Knotts wasn't given much. And He just did his thing. You know, I love Don Knotts. I love Dean Jones. But man, the supporting actors are rough. So rough.
Yeah, the Fort Noir especially.
Man, yes. So I'm going to go with a 2. And we'll go to Andy.
Yeah, 2. I agree. What did you guys think of Diane, the actress?
I did not. I was not buying. I'm not buying
Pretty
Diane.
forgettable.
I thought
Yeah,
she was
absolutely.
fine, but she just was like one note. And like she could have been
Yes.
super interesting if we found out more about, because like in that scene that we were talking about where she's unloading on him, we get a hint at like what she's been up against and like the struggle that she's had to have and all this stuff. But she's never given any time until the very end to be like on the lighter side of things. And we never
just
Or any
anger.
other, like
Yeah.
you said, it's just like one note for sure.
So if we had had more time with her and gotten to like explore more of her past, that may have been more interesting. But
Or like even if she would have like mocked them at one point or something more than like the way she mocked was weird too.
yeah,
So, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
All right, we'll go to production value. I'll start this off. I'm going to give this a 4. I'm going to give it a 3 because I was going to give it a 4 because I do like the the European setting is great, but that's pretty much all I'm going to give it. It's stuff on. I did not like the music as much. I thought some of the special effects, the blushing effect, were distracting. The super duper Herbie stuff, I mean, was impressive production, but was it necessary? I don't know. So I'll go 3. I thought it was a mixed bag. Andy?
You know, I want to give it a 2 for production value, but I'm with you. The scenes shot in Paris, I think that was really cool, and how much they made it look like a race, and I thought that was really well done. There's the car driving. I still always enjoy that, so that pulls it up to a 3 for me.
Okay, we'll go to Michael.
I'll give it a 4. I'll go with 4 on this because of it's so rare for Disney to do location work and
Yes.
to like really make. I feel like they really made use of the location as well. Like they got in a good variety of scenery, and it just wasn't like a one-off scene or something. They like really went around, and it was just cool watching like the racing through like Monte Carlo. That was reminded me of Iron
only there
Man
had been-
2 if like Whiplash had shown up and like Tony Stark had been there. It would have been interesting. But
If only there had been more of it.
if there only had been more. But yeah, it gave that like really good like Grand Prix vibe. So yeah, I'll give it a 4. They actually put some effort into it.
And we'll go to Robert.
I've been on the fence, kind of like Jeff, with a 4 and a 3, and I think I'm going to stick with a 3. The location stuff was great. I loved how they like the racing sequences through Paris. The Paris, shots were great, but I can't that alone can't push it to a 4 for me. So I think it's got to be a 3.
And finally, entertainment value. I'm going to start with Michael here.
This is tough. I'm going to give it a very generous 3. And a lot of that is from nostalgia, but I think that there's a lot of stuff that isn't good, but it's like interesting in a weird way. I feel like I think it's too long. I think we may have benefited in our youth from having seen an edited version because
Yes.
a lot was cut out, and I think that helps it. But I don't know. It's a low 3, but I'll give it a 3.
All right, and we'll go to Robert.
I'm going to almost verbatim go with Michael on that one, and it's probably more for nostalgia because I watched it a lot as a kid, and I mean I watched it 3 times for for this podcast, and it wasn't painful to watch it 3 times. It wasn't great. I didn't sit there and like hate it, but I didn't walk away going, I want to watch that 3 more times after this. So I mean, I'd probably go another 20 years without seeing it again, but I'm going to stick with a 3, a very low 3. But
This one's hard for me because it just was so much more rough than I remembered it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
had a lot of nostalgia for it, but I also was like, man, this is so bad. It's like all the things they try to do to be funny are just like ridiculous. It's not in the spirit of the way, I feel like Love Bug is kind of ridiculous, and then Herbie Rides Again is like even more ridiculous in a Alonzo P. Hawk way, and this is just like funny French people or like ridiculous.
Yes.
It just feels
Yeah.
like not a Disney movie as much. So I think I'm going to give it a 2, which kind of hurts, but that's my vote. And we'll give Andy the last word on this.
I have no nostalgia for this movie, and so it was very easy for me to give it a 2 because I thought this movie was bad. It had potential, like you guys said, but it never lived up to it. There was a few things keeping it from being a 1. Don Knotts, while he was not used enough, I still love Don Knotts. Some of the scenery and the racing shots, all that kind of stuff, but. And the racing villains, I thought they were intriguing. But yeah, this movie was a 2 for me.
All right. Well, let's plug this into our computer that wore tennis shoes and see what Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo via Paris got on the overall ranking. Robert, what you got?
It gave us 2.5, 2.5 big fat diamonds.
Pretty low.
What if Diane had been the villain? What if she was
That
it was
would
like
have
a
been
sort
better.
of Catwoman / G.I. Joe Baroness situation where he's kind of into her, but she's like the Von Stiegel, Lady Von Stiegel.
Yeah.
This puts it in third to last place, by the way. Just a fairly large lead over Boatniks, and then Gus bringing up the rear.
So 2 Don Knotts way down. Our Don Knotts movies are way down.
Broken Heart. Well, they're going to have company soon, my friend.
Oh, before we go on, we have ranked it. We've said what we had to say about it. What did Leonard Maltin say, Michael?
Well, Leonard Maltin agrees with us, and he says Disney's Love Bug formula is starting to run out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, Leonard.
Dropping a microphone.
Maltin out.
All right. I want to talk a little HCU, the Herbie Cinematic Universe. They're always looking for more content on Disney Plus. This is our chance to do our pitches here. Previous episodes, we had pitched a prequel to the story of Tennessee Steinmetz, pre-Love Bug. That could be pretty good. The second, for Herbie Rides Again, I pitched a tie-in to The Absent-Minded Professor, to have where Professor Brainerd is involved in creating Herbie by dumping a supply of flubber into the VW and getting into it with Alonzo P. Hawk. So I come to you with 2 concepts this week and would love to hear if anyone has any others. My first, and actually you all kind of hit on some of this already, so great minds think alike. My first is a riff on the Brainerd concept. This time I'm wondering instead if it's not flubber that is the cause of Herbie's personality. After that scene in Herbie Rides Again where all the other Volkswagens come to life, not to mention Giselle in this movie, I'm wondering if the sentient car thing goes a little further back. This time, of course, Professor Brainerd's still involved, but he's been called to work at Stanford to work with one Howard Stark to revive a project that was picked up at the end of World War II in Operation Paperclip. A Hydra project to have Volkswagens injected with intelligence to spy on the populations of Germany and eventually the world. Could even have Agent Carter in there.
Oh,
what do you think, guys?
Sold.
Well, that's funny because that's very, maybe I took it a step further, but I had it with, them being Trabants. If you're not familiar with the Trabant, it's the East German equivalent to the Volkswagen Beetle that was created by the communists, which was a miserable car with a 2-stroke engine that it did not have a 0 to 60 time because it couldn't get to 60 miles an hour. And it was made out of the body was made out of recycled cotton. so it would get soggy. The body
What
would.
in the world?
It was made famous by U2 on the Zoo TV tour, where they used the Trabants as a stage prop for the lighting rigs. That's where I first heard about them. But I thought this would be a great car, like to be a villainous car that that Herbie has to fight.
Kind of the car
so-
to Herbie's kit.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
good idea.
that next sort of ties into what Jeff was saying. Like the communists are injecting these cars, making these cars alive somehow, and Herbie's escaped, and then we have these evil communist Trabants running around.
I'm going to go a different direction. I'm thinking a buddy show with Von Stickel and Roubaud. As they race and have antics and, get into all kinds of crazy things. I think that
I
would be
like that.
interesting.
Fight
I
crime.
like that.
Yeah.
My second concept is a spin-off series, which I'm really excited about, and we have furthered this by talking tonight. It's called the Applegates, and it's essentially a mini-series focusing on the Wheelie Applegate family tree. The Applegate name goes back to the mid-1800s, where Wheelie's great-grandfather, Theodore Ogilvy, was down on his luck criminal who helped form the Apple Dumpling Gang.
The Apple Dumpling Gang. That's right.
Theodore's son, in an effort to distance himself from his father's lawlessness, but also play homage, changed his last name to Applegate and moved out to San Francisco to truly strike it rich. So we follow the all the adventures of all his heirs, all played by CGI Don Knotts in different situations. You could even include the peers to Wheelie Applegate, cousins such as Barney Fife, Mr. Limpet, Luther Heggs from The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, and now we know Ralph Furley could actually be Wheelie Applegate. So that takes care of that.
It's perfect. I would watch that in a heartbeat.
I would love to see like a gay 90s Don Knotts Applegate, or like the Depression
Like
Applegate.
a bowler hat. Yes.
Yeah.
Straw boater.
It's like one of them's a senator or
Like
something.
a derby and a handlebar mustache and like a garter on his sleeve. And he works in like a billiard parlor.
Its possibilities are
Plays
endless.
snooker. I think an idea could be, we've wrestled with the idea of continuity in these movies. And, where was Jim in the second movie? Where did Jim go? Where did he come from? What happened to Carol? What happened to Wilby Whitfield and his lady friend? What if you throw it all out the window and focus on the fact that Herbie's the love bug and make it like an anthology show like The Love Boat, where every episode is Herbie helping some couple come together, like Love American style. And it's Herbie helping people solve their like romantic misadventures.
Like the Incredible Hulk, where he goes from town to town.
Yes!
Just
Herbie wanders the earth like Kung Fu, but
like Kung Fu.
helps them solve their romantic problems.
They had that sitcom, the Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
From the early 80s with Dean Jones
singing that theme song.
And first episode was Herbie the Matchmaker. So
there you go.
It's kind of let's bring it back.
It's his thing. He's a love bug, man.
Disney Plus, call us. You know where to find us.
I also like the idea or theory from the last movie that the Black Knight was Thorndike, down on his luck Thorndike. So that could be a perfect like spin-off show of
That
like
would be
down on
really
his
good.
luck Thorndike doing chicken races and trying to plot his comeback.
He could also get in league with other vanquished Herbie foes, you know.
That's true. Thorndike vision.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Have them all team up. You see, imagine like Alonzo Hawk with Thorndike
And Von Stiegel.
All these guys together is like
It's like the League of
League of Doom or something.
Legion of Doom, yeah.
Yeah, Legion of Doom.
And they meet in Hawk Towers, like in the penthouse floor.
Hawk's the Lex Luthor. I mean, it's perfect.
We're coming down the home stretch. Bruno is in our rearview mirror with his laser 917. Jeff, what's Jim Wheely and Diane up to in episode 4 of the Herbie saga?
You know how we do. Let's just throw out all the characters. You know, who cares? But Michael brought up something that I want to, that maybe we should look into. The Love Boat. What if Herbie was on the Love Boat? Yes. Also, what if Moochie produced a movie, guys? What do you think that'd be like?
Chaos.
You are correct, sir.
This, in what may be the movie that breaks Andy, we are going to have a bonanza as Herbie Goes Bananas, 1980, a movie that, if you'll forgive me, Michael, Leonard Maltin calls scrap metal.
This is going to be rough for Andy.
Starring Cloris Leachman and Harvey Korman and a bunch of other
people you've never heard
it's going to
of.
be an event.
As Charles Martin Smith. So he was in American Graffiti. That was good.
It is a true head scratcher.
It is just moment to moment a head scratcher upon head scratcher moment.
So prepare yourself.
Do we have to?
Oh, we definitely have to.
Yeah.
What's your expectations for the 4th one now?
Oh my gosh. I don't know, man. It's just, we have just nosedived from Everest and just keep going deeper and deeper.
But what is most baffling about this movie is that Jeff and I watched it fairly frequently as children, despite the fact that we knew it was terrible.
Yes.
It was so puzzling. You know it's bad when you're a child and you're like, why is this so bad? Like this.
Oh, you know
bad.
who's in it? Dean Wormer.
Oh, yeah.
Dean Wormer's in it. So that's
That could
exciting.
be a great HCU spinoff right there.
Yeah.
Who knows though? This could be the one where I'm just like, whoa. Would that be hilarious though if this
I
next
would.
one I love?
That would be
Oh,
the
man.
greatest thing that has happened to me in years. If you were just like Freaky Friday Ultra jazz about Herbie Goes Bananas. You're like, man, this hobo kid is my like spirit animal.
Now wait, don't spoilers.
Oh, now I'm really interested.
I can't wait. I may go watch it tonight
I might have to watch it.
just to revel in it. Oh boy.
Well, loyal listeners, maybe you remember hearing us talking about our graphic designer Todd Naprick over at Bind and Graphics. Maybe you remember that he said that the Monte Carlo installment of Herbie was the strongest of the franchise. Do you agree with him? I'm not sure I do, but what I can agree with is that Todd may not know movies, but he knows a thing or two about graphic design. Furthermore, he can apply that knowledge to your website, brand, presentation, and or project. With his knowledge applied, you're going to look good doing it because that's what Todd does best. Hey, not all of us have the keen eye and sharp tongue needed to be a movie critic, but not all of us can slap together sharp-looking designs like Todd. Look him up at Bind and Graphics, BYDAND graphics.com, because movie critic or not, Todd is still going to make you look good. So from all of us, to all of you, take care and we'll see you next time, south of the border.
Proud are we of mighty Redfield, alma mater dear. All your sons and daughters hail to thee, Redfield College of Technology. And while we hold your banner high, rock, rock, we shout your praises to the sky, rock, rock. For proud are we of mighty Redfield, loyally we cheer. Redfield,